Duke University found that 40% of our everyday activities are habitual, meaning that our systems affect our results and performance more than we actually imagined. This is Clearly Becoming, a podcast that empowers ambitious individuals by giving them real tools, having honest conversations, and evidence-backed insights to figuring out who you actually are. Because we're all on a forever journey of learning who we are, who we want to become, and how to be the best versions of ourselves. We all talk about goals and how we want to achieve X, Y, and Z, and how we want to have a deadline for this, and we want to accomplish this by that date. But the thing is that behind the goals, there are systems. And if you don't understand the importance of building those systems and those consistent habits, then you're never going to get to that goal. We might have an idea of who we want to become and what we want to achieve, but we don't have the tools yet to figure out how to get there. And episode 29 talked all about the power of belief to become. And this episode is going to be a little bit more operational. How to utilize those beliefs by creating systems to enable who you want to become. And so this makes everything that you've been working for stick. It makes it possible. It's a little bit more easier and applicable, because knowing who you are is one thing, but having a system that is consistent, that you can rely on even on the hard days, is what actually gets you there. So I wanted to go into a little bit of a story. Before I came to university, I was a mess. I had no real sense of self. I was young. I was 17 years old, coming to a new country, the United Kingdom, and I was at a loss, and I was following everybody else's systems, routines. I was looking at what they wanted to achieve, and I thought, oh, that's what I should be achieving. And I was literally a mess. And so I just want to bring that up because it's so relatable. Like, a lot of people are figuring themselves out, and that's okay. And it's okay not to know who you are, but that's the purpose of this podcast and just experiencing and maturing in life, is figuring out who you are and being so confident in that. And so what happened is when I started investing in myself, when I started to curate the life that felt really impactful and meaningful to me, that's when I started figuring out who I was as an individual. And this was done by just experimenting, taking inspiration from role models or whatever it is, and implementing that into my life, looking at their routines and seeing how it is, doing it, seeing if it fits with me, seeing if I like it, seeing if I don't. It's not about copying other people. It's about utilizing their systems and routines and seeing what works for them, and then seeing how it can align into your life or how it doesn't align with your life, and then experimenting with that. It's all about just learning, being curious, and like A/B testing, seeing what works for you and what doesn't. And so I find life is like an experiment in a way of just constantly taking in things and then taking things out and just seeing what works and what doesn't. And this can change and evolve over time. I mean, I used to be really rigid in my routines, and now I'm a little bit more flexible because I know what works for me and what doesn't. And if something happened one day and that I didn't feel like waking up that early the next day, that's okay, because that's what life is. It throws you hurdles and obstacles, and you need to learn how to adapt with it. Something that I saw recently online was Reese Witherspoon, the famous actress. And what she said, which stuck with me, is follow your talents, not your dreams. And this is so impactful because we are all told to follow our dreams, to aspire to be that person that we want to be, or to be a CEO, or to be an actress, to be a singer, to be whatever it might be. And I think that's wonderful. I mean, yeah, obviously, follow your dreams, follow your ambitions, do what you want to do, but also know your strengths. What are your talents? What are you innately good at? Or what have you learned and developed as a skill that you are really strong in? I think the important bit here is to, yes, have dreams, have goals, have ambitions that you want, but remember to also have a system with it. Because dreams without systems is just wishful thinking. It's why I tend to not lean into manifestation totally. And if you do, that's great. And if it works for you, wonderful. But when I don't have a system with those dreams, it just feels like I'm not actually taking action. I'm not being proactive, which I talked about in one of my episodes. But having the strengths or the talents like Reese Witherspoon was talking about, and the systems, that's how you can actually build the dream life that you want. That's how you can curate this path for you. That's how you start to become who you want to be. And so I just think instead of asking, what do I want to do? Ask, what do you do on a daily basis, every single day? Because that's how you can identify your systems. What is working for you? What isn't working for you? And that's the most important part. What isn't working for you? Because then you can implement those changes and then grow from there and beyond and become who you want to be. So now it's time for my favorite bit of this podcast, is going into a little bit of the neuroscience and psychological concepts to just build that awareness of yourself and how you can utilize this in implementing those systems that are so important for your development. If you haven't read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, I think it is definitely a must read. It talks all about systems and the importance of it and how to build those, because it talks about habits. And also, if maybe that doesn't resonate with you as much, definitely check out The Power of Now by Charles Duhigg. I've referenced these books a lot, but I swear these two are just so impactful for me, and they changed how I fundamentally lived my life, and I just think they're great reads. But so James Clear talks about goals are the destination and systems are the road. So I'm going to say that again. He talks about that goals are the destination and systems are the road. And in order to get to that destination, you need to go along the journey to get there. And that's what systems are. And I also find it really interesting. I found this quote with somebody saying that winners and losers have the same goals. The difference is the systems. This really solidifies how important systems are, because anybody can have goals, anybody can have dreams and aspirations, but it's the ones that are successful that actually implement the habits and systems to get there, that are the ones that are able to become whoever they are and achieve that goal that they want. And then I also wanted to get into a little bit about motivation and why it's so important not to rely solely on your willpower and motivation. And this was a study conducted by psychologist Bandora, specified 3 things that actually trigger motivation. And I learned about this in one of my modules that I'm taking at university. One of the things that they talked about that fueled motivation is specificity. Specificity. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know. Comment below if you know actually how to say that, and put in the phonetics of the word, because that is a really challenging word. Basically what this is that vague intentions don't fire into the brain as much as concrete ones do. This means that if you set a goal saying, go to the gym more, but you don't actually concretely state how you're going to do that, it's not going to work as well. Because your brain is then trying to conceptualize, oh, what does that mean? What do I need to do? What time should I go? What plan should I take? And all of this energy being wasted on trying to figure out how to actually do that, then you're not actually doing the thing because you're already fatigued. And so if you instead say, at 7 a.m., I'm going to go to my local gym that I have a membership on, and I'm going to do a full body workout. That is so much more concrete, and it's so much easier to follow through on that goal. And you're not relying on that motivation, because what if the prior night you slept really late and you didn't have time to plan, or you're feeling lethargic and tired when you wake up in the morning? Well, you probably won't really feel motivated to work out. And if your goal was just to go to the gym, well, you're like, well, now I don't know what plan I have to do and I'm tired and whatever. But if you had that concrete plan in place, then it's going to be so much easier to get yourself up and out of the door to do that thing. Yes, it's still challenging, but you're no longer relying on motivation. You're relying on that system. Number 2 that triggers motivation is self-efficacy, which is your belief in your capacity to do it. And this is what I talked all about in my embodiment episode. So definitely go check that out just to get a little bit more information about how important belief is. And I really talk about self-efficacy in that. So I'm not going to get too into that right now, but it's basically scientifically proven if you have a stronger belief in yourself, you are likely going to have a better or a higher performance in the end. Number 3 is autonomy, which is when you design a system for yourself and that is so relevant for you and is helpful for you, then your brain protects it when it gets hard because it knows you flagged that this is important to you. And so it's going to follow through on that so much more easier. This is why when you just follow other people's routines blindly, it doesn't feel as motivating because you haven't connected in importance towards it. And I definitely feel this because I have outsourced so many people's routines before. And I always wonder, like, why isn't this working for me? Oh my gosh, one of the most frustrating things that I have dealt with when I was younger and I'm still young, but when I was a little bit younger than I am now, and people telling me, oh, just follow your intuition, do what's right for you. And I was like, I have zero idea what is right for me. I don't know what my intuition is. I'm trying to find what my intuition is. And that was always just so frustrating to me because I was like, please tell me what to do. But now, as I get older and I can reflect back on it, I can understand what they were telling me to do is that nobody can really tell you what to do. I can't tell you what to do. This podcast isn't about telling you what to become, how to become in these steps and these exact frameworks, because that's how you can get where you want to go. No, it's about experimenting. And that is how you find your intuition, really, is by experimenting what you like, what you don't like, and continually learning and unlearning the things that have influenced you in the past. And that's how you can really establish who you want to become and find your sense of self. And so for those of you who are having a little bit of trouble finding that intuition, experiment with what works for you. Design your life, curate your life for you. And the way to do that is to really just trial and error, see how things go and build from there. And so that is what I wish somebody told me when I was younger, when I was just having a really hard time finding who I am, what I meant to do. And then finally, I want to get into the non-conscious loop. And this is something that I learned recently in one of my modules. And I just thought it was so interesting. It was done by these marketing professors. And so this was identified in an article by two marketing professors. I'm going to link all of these articles below. But basically, it was that your brain can pursue goals on autopilot. And how cool is that? I mean, don't we all want that? Don't we all just want something easy, an easy fix to do? And one of the ways that it does this is that it's triggered by environmental cues, not your willpower and motivation, which is fleeting. And the goal to make a good behavior so automatic is to make discipline irrelevant. And basically what I mean by this is that you can reduce the friction in order to succeed a goal by implementing systems. So some systems that I do is that if I want to go to the gym, and I'm using gym as an example just because I feel like it's really relevant in a lot of people's lives, and definitely wellness is becoming such a huge influence in society, and it's just getting more acknowledgement about the importance of it. And I truly believe that working out is one of the best systems you can implement because it teaches you so many things. It's a keystone habit. And if you don't know what a keystone habit is, it's like a keystone species is like the main one. And then there are other species lower on the food chain. But basically a keystone habit enables other beneficial habits to cascade from it. That's why I think working out is one of those keystone habits because it does teach you discipline. Anyways, one of the things that I do to decrease friction is if I'm going to the gym, I set out my gym clothes the night before because then when I wake up, I can just put it on. I don't have to think about what I'm going to wear. And actually, this is proven by a lot of CEOs and successful people like Obama. He always wore the same thing every single day. And same for Hot Smart Rich, Maggie Sellers. She also has a wardrobe that she goes on rotation for every season because it reduces that cognitive load so you're able to focus on things that are more important. Just by simply picking out the same outfit or having that uniform look enables you to do so much more and place your attention more on that. And that's why I think when I went to high school and international school, we always had a uniform, and as much as people didn't like it, I secretly loved it because it helped me reduce that cognitive load so I could focus more on my studies and not what I was wearing. And as somebody who loves fashion, I just want to say that I even think having a uniform is important because yes, it's important to establish that self-identity and expression. And that's so much what I love about fashion, and something that I've grown and developed more of is my sense of style and how I want to present myself into the world and how clothes can really do that for you and present you in a more confident way and clothed cognition. But I also feel that it does take a lot of mental energy. And so just having those 2 to 3 outfits that I can pick out and wear on a routinely basis, like a white top and jeans and a little blazer, it just reduces that cognitive load when I'm in a place that I don't really want to place all my energy on that. Also, there's this thing called the rebound effect, which is why one bad choice spirals into so many other bad choices. And so once the brain registers a goal is abandoned or it has been successful, it activates that opposing behavior. So let's say that you missed your morning workout for that week. because I missed it, I might as well not work out the whole week. Or let's say that you missed a lecture and you're like, oh, well, because I already missed that, I can probably miss another one. It's that cascading effect. Because you did something bad or because you didn't fulfill something, then it's like, oh, well, I might as just well not do it at all. It's that all or nothing thinking, which is so dangerous because we live in the gray zone. I'm all about the gray zone, is that things happen, mistakes happen, life happens. It's okay. It's about how you build back from there. That's the important bit. And so one of the ways to fix this is to bundle your goals or bundle your habits. Frame your routine as one continuous behavior, not separate daily decisions. And so what I mean by this is like meal prepping. So instead of deciding what you're going to eat every single day for dinner, for lunch, whatever it might be, meal prep. That's how you can bundle that into one thing. Make your overnight oats the night before and then have that for 2 or 3 times that week for breakfast. Then you don't have to think about it. And this was interesting because they did a study on yogurts. They picked a yogurt for the whole week. The ones who were trying to pick the yogurt every single day, they had a hard time figuring out which flavor they wanted. They were more indecisive. They got a little bit more overwhelmed, which is the ones that picked the yogurt beforehand. They just picked straight vanilla or straight Greek yogurt. It lessened that overwhelm for them. They knew what they wanted. They knew what they were getting, and they didn't have to think about it. Where the other people were like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to do. And it's just that choice paralysis and overload. And so this is why systems beat willpower every single time, because it reduces that cognitive load. It reduces that effort that you're focusing on that decision and allows you to do it on other things. And I just want to say that I have talked about reducing friction to easily engage into those systems and habits that you want to. But I also want to say that sometimes we need a little bit of friction. And in our society, I feel like a lot of things have come really easily to us. If we have a question, we can just Google it. And as amazing as that is, it has reduced our ability to do the hard things and to put effort into a little bit of work. And so part of the systems that I've been implementing is actually doing things that take a little bit more effort that maybe other people aren't doing. I think this helps to create discipline. I think it helps create focus. And this is so important in your career where, you are going to face obstacles and you are going to face difficulties, especially in the early parts of your career and just growing and living life. And I know this as somebody who is in their 20s and still trying to establish themselves and is in university and is still going through that grunt work, if you know what I mean. Is still learning how to become. And I think it's really easy for us to just give up if things are challenging for us. But it's so important to acknowledge that these hardships and these difficulties are actually a part of life. And the most successful people don't just back away or shy away from these hard things. They fully integrate themselves into it. But yes, it's still hard. And yet you still show up and push through the difficulties and those obstacles and that friction. And so some of these things that I think are maybe a little bit more unique and different is that I walk everywhere. If something is less than an hour away, I will probably walk it. And this is to preface that, if I have a meeting to get to and I don't have time to actually do the full hour walk or whatever it is, then of course I'll take the tube. Like, I'm not insane. But I just want to say that I do walk a lot. And that is effortful. And while I'm walking, I listen to podcasts. I do things. I think about my day. I plan my day. I am productive in most of them. Sometimes, I just want to tune out everything. And I've talked about the importance of not being overly stimulated and how that affects the brain. Definitely check that episode out. But I do walk a lot, and that is effortful. But that teaches me that I can do that. I can walk the distance. We've been walking for centuries. I mean, we didn't always have transportation, if you think about it. Like, humans are so powerful and so strong, and you have the stamina to do things that I think now in this present day with all these accessible things are a little bit hard to conceive, but you can. And so by walking, it teaches me that, yes, I can do that. I can get there on my own. It fuels my independence. Another thing that I do is I take the stairs instead of the lift. And a lot of people don't do this, especially at my university. A lot of people are taking that lift, but the time it takes to wait for that lift and then how many people get into that lift and then you're squeezed, you maybe have to wait for the next lift to come, that wastes time. So instead, I take the stairs. not only does that help me get a little bit more blood flow into my brain and just a little bit of more movement, because I sit a lot throughout the day because, staying through lectures, doing my work, whatever it might be. And so it gets a little bit of movement too. So I'm compounding some of these systems and habits and doing things that are good for me. So I just want to say with these systems, yes, it's important to reduce friction and to make things a little bit easier by those environmental cues, which I talked about, but it's also important to put a little bit of effort. And this can be seen in even just planning out your systems. That's effortful. But by establishing this foundation, this will be so fruitful for your future success when things do get inevitably difficult in your life. And so now I want to move on to the framework, which we always do in these podcasts, because I think it's really helpful to just have some tangible steps that you can implement in your life. So you can use these already pre-curated systems to hopefully ease the difficulty of implementing systems into your life. So one of them is anchoring your morning and night routine. I can't stress this enough. It is so important for you to have at least one thing in the morning and night that is high leverage. I've looked at a McKinsey report who probably have looked at over thousands of CEOs in the past 25 years. I think it was like 75,000, and conducted 100 interviews just to learn the habits of CEOs. And most of them have routines. They have a morning routine, they have a night routine, and they have systems that they've implemented in their life, whether it's working out, waking up really early in the morning. I think like 72% of CEOs wake up before 6 a.m. or now 7 a.m. maybe, or sometimes 4:30 a.m., which is crazy. But it shows you that the importance of having these routines. And I think it's so important to just look up to your inspirations and your models and seeing what they've done to achieve X, Y, and Z, just to use that as inspiration, because you can see what they have done, what they have implemented. And it's not to just copy them and follow them, like I said, because it's so important to have that autonomy and design your life for you, but just use that as inspiration to see that they have done the hard work. They have these consistent habits, because consistency is so much more powerful than willpower and motivation. And just it demonstrates to you that successful people are implementing these things into their life, and it's gotten them to where they need to be. Because remember, in the Duke University research finding is that 40% of your everyday activities are habits. And so these really have impacts into your life. I can't remember which CEO talked about this, but he said that working out had a huge impact on his performance for his company. Because when you work out, it actually helps you become more productive, because you are teaching yourself that you can do the hard things. You can do that one more rep. You can do whatever that is. And then it teaches you that in your business, you can also do that hard thing. You can look at that financial accounting and you can be like, oh, yes, even though it's difficult, I will be able to do this. I will be able to learn the hard things. It teaches you that discipline and what your capabilities are that you maybe previously thought were lower. It raises that bar a little bit. Anchoring your morning and your night. And you can pick one of these things. It doesn't have to be all of them, but one of these things is remove all decisions before 9 a.m. It doesn't have to be 9 a.m. It just means, in the morning, like it could be 10 a.m. By removing these decisions, it again decreases that cognitive load for your brain. It enables you to focus that energy on other things. And it's been proven in research, you have the highest energy potential in the morning because you've just woken up. You haven't done anything. Your brain is fresh and new and regenerative. Now, this is to say, if you know that you're more of a night person, take this with a grain of salt. I'm also no doctor or psychologist or biologist, whatever it might be. But this is the things that I've gathered from my research and as somebody who just finds this a little bit interesting to study. So what I mean by this is you can have your clothes out, have your vitamins ready, have a plan already set for the day. So my morning routine is that I wake up every single day around 7 a.m. Sometimes right now I'm on break, so 7:30. But I wake up at 7 a.m. I have my gym clothes ready and I go to the gym and I do whatever day that I had planned out. And then I come home, I eat my breakfast, and I either plan my day right then and there, or planned it the night before. And what I mean by plan is that I've time blocked it. And I also do a little bit of meditation in the morning. I forgot about that. But that is what my morning looks like. I have those systems in place that have been helpful for me. And this has changed over time. I used to journal, and I still do journal, but I used to do that more religiously in the morning. But now I don't. But basically all this does to say is that having this morning routine really helps me just ground myself. It puts me at a state that I know what I'm doing. I have a little bit of certainty. And it creates that, again, that system building, those discipline habits and consistency over time, which is so impactful for just my day-to-day activities that I do. It impacts my performance throughout the day because I know if I take out one of those things, it's going to make me feel a little bit more lethargic. It's going to offset the balance in what I do that day. I've noticed this in my life, and maybe you'll notice this in yours. And then what I do at night is I do a little friction audit or a little reflection the night when I go to bed. And this can look like just journaling. What are the 3 things that went well during the day? What could I improve on? Or I did X, Y, and Z, or my gratitude list, and I list it out and I see, oh, okay, well, it looks like maybe I didn't utilize my time as best as I could in this area or whatever it is. Something that I've been really recognizing more and more is that I have a tendency to just, because I've been doing my systems for so long and habits, I've realized that I've been paying a little bit less attention to it and been more distracted by other things. Because when you create these habits and systems, then your discipline becomes a little bit more irrelevant. And while this is good, I also feel like because they've been so automatic, I've been focusing less and less on them. And then it makes me forget about why I implemented that system. And so I've been really more intentional in my systems and in my habits. So when I work out, when I eat breakfast, to be conscious of what I'm doing, because then I can focus on it and focus on the hard, fruitful work that goes into it. And so that teaches me then that I can do that in other aspects of my life. Anyways, another thing that I think is important when you're building systems is to integrate that reward into it a little bit, because rewards really stimulate your brain in repeating them. When your brain recognizes something as fruitful, something that has worked well, then it wants to do it again because of that dopamine spike that it has. So have a little reward at the end of the day, whatever that might be for you. Maybe it's just telling yourself that you did a good job. It doesn't have to be big or whatever. Or maybe because you've done X, Y, and Z, well, now you can start to plan your trip wherever you want to head or do. I always know that having a plan for something enjoyable can really help me push through. And so when I'm talking about just building your routines, you can just do 5 minutes. It can start at 5 minutes a day, which is why I love the 5-minute journal. And why I started out with that is because it's so easy. You just do it like 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at night, and then it doesn't seem like this overwhelming thing. That's what I talked about in the building habits episode, is that we can get overwhelmed by too many things. So just really step back with it. Don't overwhelm yourself with these amassed goals that you have to do. Just because my morning routine has a little bit of more steps, you don't need to do all of them. You can just pick one. Pick one, do it for 30 days, track it, see how it works for you. And then I want to go into designing your day. When you have that structured morning and night, that enables a little bit more flexibility throughout the day because you have those certainty points. You have those high leverage moments. And now you can go throughout your day however it might happen. And this isn't to say that you don't design your life intentionally. This is why I time block. This is why I have things in my schedule that I want to do. You know, I have 2 hours to study on this topic, 2 hours to study on that topic. What you can do is having like 3 non-negotiables for the day that you really want to commit to. And this will help because once you do those 3 things, it enables you a little bit more flexibility to do whatever you want to do. Hang out with a friend, go grab coffee, whatever it might be. And also make sure that these are a little bit smaller, actionable things that you can achieve so that you can tick it off. There's nothing more that I love than ticking off things like in a checkbox. I think it's just so fulfilling. That's honestly one of my rewards, is to tick off things that I've done. It sounds a little bit nerdy, but that's what I like to do. I probably got that from one of my parents. Anyways, I also find doing things like the harder task in the morning is a lot more helpful for me because, again, that's when I have the most energy and where my focus is a little bit better. And know where your energy levels are. If you're more energized in the morning, then do those higher tasks in the morning, because I know when 3 to 5 p.m. hits, that's my afternoon lull. Like my brain is totally off for some reason and I don't know what it is. And then it turns back on in the evening. So I really don't know what that's about, but that's what I've noticed about myself. So during that 3 to 5 p.m. lull, instead of just doing nothing, which I don't like doing, I don't take naps. If you do, that's fine. It's just personally to me, I don't like taking naps. It messes up my sleep cycle. But between that 3 to 5 p.m. lull is I do the low effort tasks. So maybe emails that I have to do or more creative pursuits like making a carousel for one of my marketing jobs. Find out where your energy levels are and design your day to that. And again, the importance of designing your day is that when things do go sideways, you become more resilient because you have a plan in place. You have a system in place that you can do. And remember that there is no perfect day. Like, enable that flexibility in there. Like, things are going to go sideways, and create contingency plans for that. If things don't go your way, well, how can you get back on track? That's a resilient system. Systems fail when they're too rigid. So this is where auditing happens, is if something doesn't go your way, then look at why did that happen? Don't look at it as, oh, I failed, but look at the why, the cause behind it, and try to implement a plan for that. So for example, if you had a late night, ask yourself, why did I have that late night? Was it for something that I wanted? Was it a social event that I wanted to attend? And that's completely okay. Well, that's okay. I can have a social life. I want to do that. That's important to me. And so that was my priority. But if it wasn't your priority, say you were binging an episode or a TV show or something like that, maybe next time instead, because I know that wasn't helpful to where I wanted to go, well, then I'll leave my laptop in the kitchen so that I won't have that urge to watch that show and stay up late and then miss my workout in the morning, whatever it might be. And that audit becomes that system upgrade. It enables you to bounce back. I just want to summarize all of this. Anchor your morning and night. Have those concrete, high leverage moments and systems that you can rely on. And then design your day, but enable that flexibility. So pick one of these things that works for you, track it for 30 days, and keep on reflecting. Reflect after it and see how you can upgrade your life from there and become that high performing person that you want. And so now I'm going to close off with just a rapid fire question round. So these are some just reflective questions that you can ask yourself and that I'm going to ask myself, and then I'll answer it for you guys. And so question one is, what is one thing you're becoming that still scares you? So one of my things is honestly just doing this podcast. Still doing this podcast is a little bit scary for me because I feel like I'm still growing. I'm still in this beginning phase, and it's scary to talk and share and be vulnerable, but it is something that I'm still being consistent at. I do upload every single episode Mondays, besides from the odd Saturday if an occasion happens. But yeah, I keep on showing up and I keep on trying to learn and grow. Question two is a belief that you've had to unlearn to build better systems. So one of the things that I've had to unlearn is complaining and making excuses, because these are all things that are keeping me back. It's procrastinating from actually what I want to do. And so basically, I always remind myself that yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's even more uncomfortable to not take action. So that's one of the things that I'm unlearning. Question three is, what would you tell the version of yourself who is stuck in the restart mode, constantly wanting to just be perfect and be better? Well, one of the things is that I say is just take action, because once you take action, that's where you can go from there. That's where you can learn from. But if you never take the action, then you'll never learn and grow from there. And question four is, what is one non-negotiable in your day? Currently, my non-negotiable, if you haven't figured it out already, is really improving my health and wellness. And that is doing a little bit of strength training, Pilates, and I bought new running shoes. So running as well. And I've really been enjoying running. I think it just helps clear the mind. And it is really teaching me about how if you put your mind to something, you can do it. So that's something that's my non-negotiable, is working out. And then ending it on question five is, I am clearly becoming actionable. That is the word that I'm going to use, because I think it's so important to just take action even when you're scared. You don't need to rise to the level of your goals. You need to fall back to the level of your systems. So that is why building systems is so important, because when things get hard, you know that you can rely on the systems that you've created. It teaches you those fundamental skills that you need for your career and for life in general. So pick one of the three things that I mentioned in my frameworks and just try it out. See how it works, track it, and reflect on that. And I hope it's helpful. Also, comment below your answers for those 5 questions that I talked about in that clarity round. And yeah, screenshot them or tag me. And I'd love to know what you are clearly becoming and what non-negotiables you have in your life as well. Share this episode with somebody that you think might need it, maybe who restarts every single Monday or has the Sunday scaries, whatever it might be. And hopefully they can gain helpful tips from this episode and implement it into their life so that they can achieve the goals that they want through the systems that they build. I read each and every single comment, and you can hear my episodes on Spotify and as well as Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Next week, we'll probably be talking about leadership leadership skills, which is a big one. And it is something that's so important to just develop that in your career, especially if you want to inspire and influence people. And it's a little bit more about why being the loudest person in the room isn't always the most important thing as a leader. Something interesting to ponder on for the week coming. And this podcast is all about just experiencing this journey of becoming together and the difficulties and how to bounce back from there. Yeah, thanks for listening again, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.